This is Supersubs Show.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Supersubs Show. We got a lot we want to talk about today, but first it's only fair that we introduce ourselves. So my name's Bennett, big Minnesota United supporter. Been a Chelsea fan for a few years now and a diehard United States men's national team supporter. So Sam, I'll pass it over to you to just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, as for me, I am a very sad Spurs supporter today after the Brighton result. And I also follow the Chicago Fire Soccer Club. So, yeah, those are my main two teams.
Yeah, and like I said, we got a lot we want to talk about today. There's been a lot going on in the Premier League. We got some men's national team news, and then, of course, the transfer window's closing, so we got a little bit to talk about there. But first, we just thought we'd recap this past weekend's fixtures. We had a lot going on, some big games.
Yeah, it was kind of quiet compared to the last couple weeks. One of the big games was Arsenal-Man U, and it ended in a 0-0 draw. You know, Man U looked really promising towards the end of the first half, and then the pressure kind of disappeared in the second half, and it kind of was Arsenal and Man U kind of trading blows, but no one could really find a finish there.
Yeah, and that's, a big result, right? Because Manchester United were sitting at the top of the table for a couple days, and Arsenal having drawn.
Days.
Yeah, just a couple days, not very long. But that draw for Arsenal means they're unbeaten in their last 5. So a big result for both those teams, for sure.
Yeah, do you think it's a bigger result for Arsenal or Man U?
Well, I don't think anyone expected Man U to really be where they are. And I think Arsenal have been finding form. So I would almost say that while it is a blow to Manchester United, I think Arsenal maybe are, I don't know, it's bigger for them.
Yeah. See, I'd almost have expected Arsenal to maybe try and grab all 3 points, but
right, because they're sitting
without Oba. It's tough, but they've been doing really well since he's been out.
Yeah, how do you get results without Aubameyang? It's actually kind of interesting because I don't think Lacazette's very good anymore. Maybe that's a hot take, but he just doesn't seem like he's very consistent scoring.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
So the other games from the weekend that were pretty significant, Leeds United beat Leicester City 3-1. Not
Definitely
really
a big result.
It's a surprise, but not really. It's kind of a trademark Leicester have a run of really good wins and then lose at home 3-1 to Leeds.
Yeah, and I would almost say it's like trademark Leeds too, because they just shock big teams, and it's awesome. I think they're a great kind of X factor. But yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit more about Leicester later when we give our Premier League predictions, but I still rank them very high. But I think that is just like that is a morale blow for a team that was, I think, unbeaten since in 2021 prior to today, right?
They were controlling the game pretty well. I mean, as much as you can control a game against Leeds, they were doing pretty well. They were getting a lot of chances, and then all of a sudden it just kind of
fell apart.
They gave up a goal, and then kind of a stalemate, and then they gave up 2 pretty rapid fire at the end.
Yeah,
and then Chelsea obviously won 2-0 to Burnley, which is not much of a surprise. And then the last 2 big games were West Ham Liverpool. Liverpool won 3-1, which I don't think is a surprise, but it's an interesting result given how well West Ham have been in the recent weeks.
Well, yeah, and given the fact that I think Liverpool now have they have absolutely no center backs, so they don't even have. They were playing Fabinho, who's a CDM at center back.
He didn't even play.
Right. Yeah. So it
was one of the young boys who I hadn't seen. I think it was his debut, and then he was paired with Henderson, which is
ridiculous.
It's funny that call me salty, but Matip and Henderson came back for the Spurs game, and then now Fabinho and Matip are out against West Ham.
And people probably forget. Well, they don't forget, but yeah, Virgil van Dijk's still out. Obviously, Joe Gomez was hurt a few weeks ago. He's still out. So I think once again we'll touch more on Liverpool when we kind of go to our top 6, bottom 3 talk. But I think it's a huge result for them for sure, even though it's kind of expected that they would beat West Ham.
Yep. And then the last big result is obviously Brighton beating Spurs 1-0. It could have been 5-0.
Yep.
Spurs probably had 2 opportunities all game, and Brighton maybe had like 7 or 8 good chances. So it was really, really shocking. It was kind of the epitome of Spurs offense this season. It's just been non-existent, and then without Harry Kane, wow.
Yeah, and I think it's really odd for me because I think I honestly think he's one of the best players in the Premier League. I mean, he's so good with both his feet. And then I also think Vinicius off the bench always makes somewhat of an impact. He seems like he's really passionate, which I know that doesn't get you goals, but I'm surprised. I'm surprised that Spurs couldn't find anything. And I think their weak link, I'm going to be honest, was Ben Davies for sure. He had an atrocious game. Yeah, he was awful. So I think Reguilon is still hurt, I think.
Yep, and
right?
Aurier's out as well, which is bad. Our 2 first-choice fullbacks have been out. Mm-hmm. And I think a big problem for us is, like, when we have possession, they just don't know what to do with it. They just pass it back between the defense. And missing that speed on the wings in Reguilon and Aurier really hurts.
Yeah, you're totally right. There were a few times when Davis had the ball just wide open. He was just on the left side and was just like firing passes just all over to Brighton players, and it was not pretty. But so I think that kind of sums it up, right, for the fixtures this past weekend. So now I think we kind of want to talk about, it's about mid-season, right? I mean, we're a little past
just
mid-season.
Past mid-season. Yeah,
and I think Sam and I both want to kind of give our predictions for the bottom 3 and the top 6. So this should be really interesting.
With bottom 3?
Yeah, I think we got to start with the bottom. So who do you got?
Well, I do not have many hot takes for the bottom 3, I'm going to be honest.
I'm the same.
In 20th, I have Sheffield United.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the same?
Yeah, they have 8 points. So, I mean...
Yeah, it's really tough. Things have just gone wrong for them, I feel like. So they brought in Aaron Ramsdale from Bournemouth at the beginning of the season to replace Dean Henderson.
Good keeper.
And I just don't think he's done much of anything for them.
Right, and I think the expectations were high, right, because Henderson is really good. But I thought Ramsdale would be doing better. But he's
he had
not.
A great season last year with Bournemouth, but I think he just is struggling to fit in. Sheffield United seems like a team with like a very intense team culture, and I think that Aaron Ramsdale just hasn't really found himself fitting in there.
That's a great point because when I look at Sheffield, it seems like a lot of, I mean, it's like almost all English players, and I know Ramsdale is English, but it's just kind of this like down and dirty, right? Like, like scrubbing to get the points, like, which that's what they did really well last year. Is they just they fought really hard. They had a solid group of guys and they fought really hard. But yeah, I think they will be finishing 20th. I would be shocked if they didn't. So who you got at 19?
Well, one more thing about Sheffield United is between last year and this year, they did so well last season because they were scratching out 1-0 wins or 1-1 draws with good teams. And the difference this year is that any games they would have won 1-0, they draw 1-1, and any games they would have drawn 0-0, they lose 0-1. So it's just bad news for them. It'd be a real shock if they avoid relegation, though, I think. So 19th, I have West Brom.
Same. They've got 12 points. So, I mean, it's like a slugfest at the bottom for who's going to do the worst. They both played 21 matches. West Brom, I think, has scored a few more goals.
A lot more. The interesting thing about West Brom is they have some really good results. They've drawn away to Man City, Liverpool, and Chelsea.
Yeah.
And they had that big win against Wolves.
Yeah. Oh,
But
Wolves. Jeez.
at the same time, they've had just shocking results. They lost 5-0 at home to City and Leeds, 4-0 at home to Arsenal, and they lost 5-1 at home to Palace, even though they had a red card in that game. But still, they just have a shocking defense. They've conceded the most goals in the Premier League by 14 goals. It's not even close.
It's unreal.
They've allowed 50 goals, and they're tied third bottom for goals scored. So that's just, it tells you all you need to know.
Yeah. And they have Pereira. I was looking forward to seeing him play. I don't know a lot about West Brom, but they seem like they had some weapons coming into the season, and they've just been unable to use them. And it's their defense, right? That's really letting them down. So I think in 18th, I think this is interesting, right? Because I actually had, prior to the Brighton Spurs game, I had Brighton in 18th. Did you?
No, I actually had Fulham. I told you I just have the bottom three as they are. Nothing interesting. And
you were right. So I am saying Fulham's going to be bottom three. But Brighton are just so inconsistent. I think their win against Spurs, that's gonna keep them up, because now they're, what are they, 5 clear of the bottom 3? I'm not sure exactly.
I think maybe a little more than that.
Yeah. So Fulham's had 11 scoreless games, 11 games where they haven't scored. So that's, they just haven't been producing. They've had a lot of draws. They've had a lot of 1-0 losses.
A lot of draws.
Yeah, a little bit unfortunate, but I just don't see them being able to kind of scrape out of that hole.
Yeah, I also think the same thing as West Brom, a little bit different. It's their defense that's letting them down. They only have 3 wins. When you compare that to Burnley, who's also kind of down there, Burnley has 6 wins, and I think that Burnley doesn't even have much more talent or skill than Fulham. They just have more experience in the Premier League. They know what they need to do to get points, and they execute their plan a lot better. But Fulham has been really exciting in the past few games, mostly since Ruben Loftus-Cheek kind of got in the groove in the center. Yeah, groove. Pascal Grobe. Yeah, okay. But since he got going in the center, he's been playing a lot better.
Right,
and I think been doing a lot better. Sorry.
Yeah, no. It's sad because I think Fulham. I'd like to see them stay up. I as an American, I love to see diversity in the Premier League. I'd love to see new teams get brought up. Seeing Leeds this year, I know everyone is looking forward to that, but seeing them up, that's great. Seeing Fulham up, that's great. And it looks like they might just end up, dropping back down. So
another interesting thing about Fulham, I think they've lost their last 11 London derbies or something like that. It might be more. But it's a pretty bad statistic considering. It's tough considering the caliber of teams from London, but also the West Hams. You have an opportunity, and it's not drawn. They've lost.
Right. Yeah.
So
you have an opportunity to beat. You have an opportunity to beat teams like West Ham for sure. Because they're sitting in 5th, and if you think they're going to stay in 5th, you think you're crazy. I don't think they don't really have that caliber. I think they're just kind of hanging out up there. At least that's how I feel.
Well, though, and I think it actually is. They haven't won in their last 11 because we know they drew to Spurs 1-1. So. Oh yeah. All right. Should we go for top 6 now? I think the bottom 3 is pretty set. Honestly, I don't see much happening. Brighton and Burnley, I think, are just. And even Newcastle, they're just too experienced to not escape.
Newcastle does this every year, so yeah, they're great at just kind of notching somewhere in that lower 2/3 of the table. So
Newcastle also had a big win at Everton on the weekend, 2-0. It was their first win in a while. Mm-hmm. I think they've been very hurt by COVID. Saint Maximum.
Oh,
is that how you say his name? He's been out for 2 months with COVID, and he's their best player. Or, in my opinion, he's their best player. But
he's their star.
They brought him in to be the star, and he's missed a lot of the season.
Yeah. So I think, the bottom 3 probably going to kind of stay that way, but the top 6, I bet we're all over the board. I doubt we have
going on.
So who do you have in 6th? Finishing the season in 6th.
Finishing the season in 6th. This was a tough one, but I had Leicester City.
Wow. Okay. So I put Arsenal in 6th.
Arsenal in 6th.
Yes. Do you have them higher, or do you just have them not in there at all?
They're not in there, baby.
Okay. So so I think, like we mentioned earlier, for me, they haven't lost in 5 matches, and I think this is kind of a wild card.
Yeah.
I think they could definitely drop hard, finish 8th or 9th, but they're in form, and Aubameyang's going to come back at some point, right? And I think there's a
Doesn't
chance
mean he's going to be scoring goals.
right. And nothing is written. You never know if he's going to come back and score goals, but I think they got a chance, and I think I snuck him up in 6th. Yeah. So go ahead and tell me why you got Leicester in 6th.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you have him higher, but I dropped him down to 6th. Vardy going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks. I think that hurts a lot.
Yep.
I think it puts a lot of pressure on Maddison to produce. Iosi Perez, since coming from Newcastle last year, he hasn't done much of anything. I don't think it's been the move either of them wanted.
Yeah.
So if he gets going, that could help, but I just don't see them as consistent. They put on a show beating Spurs, Chelsea, and Southampton 2-0, and they looked like they came in with a job and got it done, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're just so inconsistent, and they already have 6 losses, which I don't think is like good teams will draw. They don't lose.
Right. It's not top 4 caliber to you, kind of is what you're thinking. 6 losses. Yeah.
And I just don't think they're consistent enough. I mean, we saw they lost 3-0 to, or 3-1 to Leeds, excuse me, and they also have a loss to Fulham. Fulham has 2 wins this season. One of them is beating Leicester.
So, yeah, and I think the reason why I maybe put them a little higher is almost because of that. I think you're right. They're inconsistent. They have these fluke games, but they consistently are a solid team that just doesn't seem to drop a lot against some of the the top 6 teams. So I don't know how that fully like factors in there, but if they're holding their own against some of the top 6 teams and they're losing to some of the lower teams, that can kind of I think notch them up a little bit, if that makes sense. But
yeah, they do have a lot of firepower too. Their defense just always seems to be strong, even though they are constantly selling off their defenders, and somehow they're just always being replaced.
Yeah, and I think Soyuncu is still hurt or was hurt for a long time, and he
actually was back for the Leeds game.
Okay, and then they lose. And they were playing Johnny Evans and who was back there with him? I don't even remember, but. Yeah, I think, Leicester, they'll come up later when I tell you where I have them placed. But who did you have in 5th?
5th, I had Chelsea.
Same here.
Really?
Yeah. So
I'm surprised you could stand to put them there as a Chelsea supporter.
I'm trying to be realistic. I think I could have put them at 7th. I think I could have put them in 6th.
I was going to put them higher, honestly, but being a Spurs fan, I couldn't.
So I think maybe they could stretch higher. I think it's all about, Tuchel. So he's just come in, and he's gotten 2 results, I guess, a draw and a win. And I think there's going to be this honeymoon period. They always talk about that with new managers. Yeah. There's a few weeks, maybe a couple months where things go really well, because everyone's motivated. But what I will say is he has started 2 ultra-conservative lineups. He played Jorginho alongside Kovacic. He's played Marcus Alonso. He's played Azpilicueta. Instead of, I don't know, he could play Emerson. He could play
Chilwell and Reece James.
Yep. And then he's also... he's playing... He hasn't started Pulisic, who I see as kind of like a very aggressive, a go-get-'em type of player who's not a super safe pick. But I just think there's going to be a few months where they do really well, but he's still the root problems are there still with Chelsea.
Well, here's what I think. He kind of went back. His lineup today against Burnley, which, by the way, Marcus Alonso and Azpilicueta, it's one of their first or second games in this season, and they both scored. So good for them.
Totally.
They were both really nice goals. But it just seems like he went back to the same starting lineup that was starting when Frank took over last season before they spent all this money.
Yeah, totally.
If you read off their bench from today, Kepa, Christensen, N'Golo Kante, Pulisic, Zuma, Giroud, Chilwell, James, and Kai Havertz. And if you look at the value of those players combined, it's about 400 million euros. So their bench is just like that bench. Every player on that bench, besides maybe Christensen, could be a starter at most clubs in the Premier League.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes it's so Havertz wasn't even in the squad. And you could say, I don't know, maybe he's worth 70-80 million dollars.
No, he was on the bench today.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he came on.
Did he? The game was at 6 a.m. here, so I definitely did not watch that. I was watching them highlights, baby. So, but I think, yeah, it's tough because, like, Werner is, how much is he worth? Like, he's worth pennies, but he's also worth, like, 50-60 million or whatever, so it's hard to value just off of, market value. But, yeah, I think we'll see, right? Maybe it's a more conservative lineup and they just kind of slowly work their way up.
I definitely think they are the team that they should be the team to beat given their talent. I think they probably have the most talented pool of players. And I think the biggest problem for Frank was finding the right system for them to play in and finding the right combination of those players. So maybe Tuchel will find it. Is that how you say his name? Tuchel.
Which it should be Tuchel, it should be Tuchel, like if you're like French or whatever. But I guess he's German, so it's not.
We're American, damn it.
Yeah, Tuchel. I'll say one last thing before we go to fourth. But Mason Mount looked pretty bad from what I saw, and I think it's really interesting that Frank put a ton of faith in him, and now he seems like he's lacking confidence. He came off the bench in their first game with Tuchel as manager, and I think it'll be interesting to see if some of the that kind of young English team, primarily Mount, just stop playing or just get really sad and don't perform as well. So who'd you have in fourth?
Sad.
I know it's sad because he's a good player and he put his heart out there, but I don't know.
That's tough.
Yep.
But in fourth, I have Spurs.
Okay. Tell me about it.
To be honest, I had them in second.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
The Brighton game.
That's ridiculous.
Okay. So here's my thing is that basically 2 through 5, it's so tight. You could put any of them in any position in my place. So I figured I'd just stick the team I like most at the top. But then after the Brighton game, they dropped to fourth, which honestly is still a little very generous. It's very generous.
Yeah.
But I think that the interesting thing for me is that they have this firepower. Like they've shown they can do it. Like they beat City 2-0 easily. They walloped Man U and Southampton at the beginning of the season. But the last month and a half, man, they've been bad.
Yeah.
And with Kane out.
Go ahead. Yeah, Kane out. So Kane's out, and that's so they're not even in my top 6. I
figured that. When you had Arsenal 6, I was like, wow, Spurs are not making your top 6.
Kind of a toss up there, Arsenal, Spurs, who knows. But my fourth, I had Man United. But I would like to say for Spurs, I think they have a lot of firepower too, and I think, like I said, Son is amazing. He's actually really good. Kane, I'm not a huge Kane guy, but I think Højbjerg has been great. They have
Højbjerg.
Toby Alderweireld. There you go.
He's not even been playing recently. He started today, but that was his first start in a few games.
And he was great today. He was awesome. I thought he was so good. But I think they're just at the beginning of the season, it's kind of like Everton, right? They just they just had some great results, came firing, and then it's like, meh, I think they're kind of settling into mid-table. I mean, I think they could get 5th or 6th. There's a chance, right?
Yeah.
But then that also requires Chelsea or Arsenal maybe to start performing or to keep performing poorly, if you want to put it like that. So
Yeah, it's tough. I think as a Spurs fan, I was very excited about the signings we had going into the season, and now looking back, basically Højbjerg was the only good signing. Like Matt Doherty has done nothing. He's looked atrocious in every game he's played.
And he was great.
Bale has one start. Today was his second start. Only six appearances in the Prem this season. I guess Reguilon was also a good signing.
Right.
But then also Vinicius has not done much in the Prem either. He hasn't had much of a chance, but he had the only good chance for Spurs today. But I just think we thought we were there, and the last month we're not there. But
yeah,
that's just me being a sad boy.
Well, okay, so I'll briefly touch on Man United. I know you probably have them higher. I can't see you having them lower, but
yeah, I have them at third.
Yeah, I think they're a total wild card, and I have I really don't know where they're going to end up. I think like Rashford is amazing. They're really fun to watch, but Pogba's so hot and cold. Their defense, like Maguire, is so hot and cold. I just don't see that consistency. I think they've played great so far, but I just don't really trust them. I don't feel like they're a very solid squad that could make like a top 2, top 3. But they're kind of like, of the top 6, they're the most kind of toss up to me right now. I really don't know.
Yeah, having them I'll just go into it since I have them at third, but I had the exact same thing. I think that their current run of form is really representative of their playing style. They're really, really inconsistent. They win a bunch of games and then they lose to Sheffield United.
Yeah. Yeah, and like, is that their one win? Sheffield probably has one win, right?
No, they have 2 now. That was their second win.
Right, okay. Yeah, so I have Leicester in third, just because I see them as being a little more solid than Man U right now. But, who knows what that is going to look like. So I'm assuming our top 2 are the same. Do you have City in first and Liverpool in second?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just going to say this real quick. Let me just list off Liverpool's current injuries within the last week. So Virgil van Dijk is out. Joe Gomez is out. Fabinho is out. Mane got picked up an injury. Matip is out. Diogo Jota is out. And Naby Keita is injured. And they still beat West Ham 3-1.
Dude, Naby Keita, the dude is like a sheet of paper. You just blow him over and he's injured. He's just always shredded. Injured.
So, right, but also, I mean, we're talking about Liverpool. That's 7 of their like pretty important kind of rotation players.
Yeah.
Especially for other competitions, right? So to me, Diogo Jota is like someone who plays maybe in the Champions League a little bit, or like plays in like a League Cup game or something.
He was looking so good. He was looking silky. I had to pick him up on my fantasy team, and then he got out, which is just sad because he was looking really good, rich vein of form.
Yeah. So the only reason I think Man U could finish above Liverpool if these injuries continue to like weigh them down, but it's Liverpool and they find a way to win regardless of their injuries. So I put them in second. And then, of course, Man City's in top. They're 3 points clear with a game in hand. They've won their last 5. They probably have arguably the best depth in the Premier League. Definitely now that Liverpool have picked up all these injuries.
Yeah.
And I think they've kind of broken through here, and it's going to be hard to catch them.
Yeah, I think they were looking questionable in the beginning, especially from their defensive point. They didn't really have a set center back pairing, and Mendy was out, so they didn't have a very solid defense. Everyone was kind of playing together. Kyle Walker was out for a while, but I think they've really settled into. I mean, John Stones has been playing out of his mind. He's been turning back the clock this season.
Who? Yeah, dude. And João Cancelo has had a great season too, which is weird too, because he was a huge transfer and then just kind of seemed like he sat on the bench a lot for a while.
He single-handedly beat my fantasy team last week.
Not Wan-Bissaka. It was João Cancelo.
John Stones and Ruben Diaz have been pairing up very well together now.
Yep.
And Kyle Walker, João Cancelo, it's just locked up. And Gundogan he's been playing out of his mind too.
Yeah, which is great. And that speaks, I think, to their depth a little bit. So I'm pretty sure last season, I mean, he played a fair amount, but he was also kind of a rotate. He was important, but
he was a
wasn't
rotation
crucial.
player last season because they had David Silva.
Yeah, and now he's stepping up. I mean, you have De Bruyne. The crazy thing is Aguero hasn't even been playing that. How many goals has Aguero scored?
How many games has Aguero played?
Right, and they're still.
I don't think he has a goal. He might have one.
Yeah, so
he's only played like 2 games.
So, and they have, I mean, you look at like right wing, they have Raheem, and then right behind him they have Mahrez, and then it seems like every position they still have Fernandinho, who can pretty much play anywhere in the midfield or at center back. I mean, they just have a lot there.
Interestingly, Nathan Ake has not played much at all. I know he's been injured, but he just has had a rough go at it at City, and that was kind of a big money move this offseason.
Totally, and they have a lot. Of. I mean, they're kind of that classic, like just almost too much depth, right? I know we might talk about Eric Garcia later, but he showed some promise as a center back. They picked up Ruben Diaz. They have John Stones. They have Fernandinho, who sometimes plays back there. They have Nathan Ake, and I think I'm missing another. I mean, they have so many center backs.
They actually lost a lot of their, not a lot, but they lost David Silva. Aguero is basically done.
Company.
Sane left.
Right? Or was that 2 years ago? Am I losing my mind? Didn't Company leave at the end of last season? Or was that 2 seasons ago?
Might have been 2 seasons ago, I think.
Whatever.
Because Fernandinho was captain last season too.
Okay. So, I mean, they it's weird, right? Why buy Ake and then buy Diaz? Unless... Yeah, it's a weird move for me. Same with Mahrez. They bought him to kind of have him on the bench. So
yeah, but him.
Phil
Bernardo
Foden
Silva,
has been playing really well.
Raheem Sterling, Phil Foden. They're all in that kind of rotation, which is nice because they got Ferran Torres too. Who?
Oh my gosh!
You don't even really talk about him. He hasn't even done much, but he was kind of a big money move too, and he just always seems to find a goal when he gets time.
Yeah, so moral of the story is you could injure Man City's whole first team and probably still lose to them.
Yeah, well,
because they're just too deep, and
it just shows De Bruyne is injured and they still put 5 past West Brom.
Who's injured?
De Bruyne.
Huh? Who? He's not important to them, It's like they can do whatever they want. Yeah, so he hurt my fantasy team. So get well.
So there we go. We both have Man City coming in first place at the end of the season.
Right. That's
with Liverpool in second. After that, it gets a little hazy. What's going to happen? Spurs end up winning. Who knows? Anything can happen.
The biggest difference I would say is where we put Spurs. We were pretty much the same on Man U, Chelsea, Man City, and Liverpool. But yeah.
Did you have a runners up?
Like 7th?
Yeah. Or
it'd be Spurs for me. Yeah.
Okay. I had Villa, Arsenal as runner-up, and quick shout to West Ham as well. But
who are in 5th. They're sitting in 5th, and we didn't even talk about them. We're like, there's no way they're staying up there. Maybe there is, though.
They've had... It's almost funny about West Ham because they started off the season, I think they lost their first 3, and their fans were absolutely giving it to them for not bringing in any new players in the offseason.
They're like...
there was a huge uproar from West Ham fans, and then all of a sudden they started winning, and they just really haven't stopped winning since then. I think Liverpool was their first loss in 7 or 8 games.
And I think they've received a lot of stick, right, for their management. I seem to recall when they brought in Felipe Anderson, and then he just stopped playing. They just stopped playing him, and there was weird. So who knows?
It all started when David Moyes got COVID and had to stay home for 2 games. They won those 2 games, and ever since then they've never looked back.
Moyes out.
Yeah.
Get him out of there. They don't need him.
That was the key. The other funny thing is that Mikel Antonio took over at the end of last season, right?
During the restart.
Yeah, during the restart, he took over, and then he's been out most of the season, and they've still just been finding win after win. I think keeping Declan Rice was huge for them.
Huge.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So, hey, we'll see. Maybe we'll come back to this list in a couple months and just see how horribly wrong we were. I doubt we can really mess up the bottom 3. If we mess that up, I'm going to be really disappointed. But the top 6, it's kind of just a shot in the dark at this point.
A lot of flux. So now we're going to turn to upcoming fixtures. We got midweek action.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Totally.
we recorded these episodes on Sunday, and we put them out Tuesday. So there have already been games happening today. We
Yep.
know that. We're probably watching them, but we can't talk about them. Well, let's just go ahead and say it. Man U lost to Southampton at home. They lost
6-0.
6-0.
Their biggest home loss ever. So that's crazy.
But we do want to preview 2 other games at midweek that we can preview, and that is, first off, Thursday, the London derby, Chelsea Spurs.
So this is tough for me. I think Chelsea, like I said, they're in that honeymoon phase. I will say the one thing that I worry about with Chelsea is our forwards are not scoring. Timo Werner hasn't scored a goal in I don't even know how long. I know he's been benched a little bit and stuff like that. Tammy, I don't think has scored many goals. Hudson-Odoi got an assist, didn't score any goals. Pulisic hasn't scored any goals in a long time.
Yeah.
So I don't know how long that can last. I don't know how long you can have Marcus Alonso and Azpilicueta scoring your goals. I worry about that, especially against Spurs, because I know Spurs they're going to be prepared.
You know what I worry about that too, because it seems like whenever a team comes to play Spurs, they're coming in after losing a couple shot games, and their game against Spurs is like, all right, we have to win this. And I feel like that's kind of where it is for Chelsea too. Obviously they won today against Burnley, but this is going to be the first big game, and I think they're going to come in, and I'm worried. I'm worried, to be honest.
Yeah.
Obviously they drew 0-0 earlier in the season at Stamford Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a super defensive game. I think both teams are going to see this kind of as a must-win game, so we might see a little more aggression there. But I do think with Kane out that Jose Mourinho is going to probably be a little more defensive-minded, so it might not be as interesting as we think it's going to be. I think it's going to be interesting. My prediction is a 1-1 draw, and that is, I think that would be a good result for Spurs probably.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually, I'm gonna go ahead and say I think this is gonna be like a total shootout. I think you're right that it's a must-win game for both clubs, and I think I know Mourinho. He's a defensive coach. That's his whole tactics are all defensive. But I think it's gonna be like. My guess would be 3-2 Chelsea. I think I would be surprised if Son didn't squeeze one past. If if he doesn't get injured in training or something. But I think it's going to be a shootout. I think it is a must-win, and for that reason, I think there's going to be good defensive work, but I think there's going to be a lot of focus on just breaking the lines and just playing hard the whole game.
My only concern is, can Spurs find the net twice without Kane? Because he has scored 11 goals, I think, and he scored 12 goals and he has 11 assists. So he is in part responsible for over half Spurs goals this season.
Bale's got to show up. That's the only way.
I don't know if Bale's even going to play. Bale got subbed off 60th minute today. It just seems like we don't know what we're doing right now, and we're getting punished for it. But I think it's going to be really interesting. And the other game that we wanted to preview is on Wednesday, Aston Villa versus West Ham. We were just talking about West Ham a little bit.
Yeah, dude. A powerhouse on powerhouse matchup right now, dude.
It really is. It's the heavyweights of the lightweights, if that makes sense.
That's
no
a great
one
way
expected
of
either of the teams to do much going into the season, and yet they're both up at the top.
Yeah. Yeah, what
Villa's
do you think?
got a couple games in hand.
Yeah, Villa, there was a point where they had 4 games in hand. Wasn't there something ridiculous like that?
Yeah, because of COVID, but
ridiculous. I'm gonna say, this is tough for me too, but I'm gonna say Villa wins. I'm gonna say it's 2-0 Villa. I think they go up 1-0 and then they score kind of like a stoppage time goal at the end to seal it.
I had 2-1 win for Villa. I was also thinking 2-0 because I feel like with West Ham, if they win, they usually keep a clean sheet and win like 3-0. But if they lose, they usually don't score.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know, Villa, I don't know. It's kind of it's kind of a toss up. I don't know. I think Villa are going to pull through though, and I think they're going to want to be playing more defensively. And because right now they kind of just want to hold. Probably, what are they in 7th? Are they in 7th?
Yeah, and they've also not been doing super hot. Obviously, they beat Southampton 1-0 this weekend, but before that, I think they had 3 losses in a row. So I think they're going to be looking for a win here. The other thing to think about from a long-term point is, honestly, Villa may have done the best business in the summer transfer window coming in.
So, I'm sorry, remind me, who are we talking about?
So, well, first off, they avoided relegation by 1 point.
In the last, I remember
and that was winning and drawing the last 4 games. They lost like 10 in a row, and then they won, drew, and they beat Arsenal, which was a huge upset and vital to them staying up. I remember thinking, like, there's no way Bournemouth kept getting so unlucky, and I'm like, they can't keep getting this unlucky, and they just did, and then Villa took advantage of it. But over the summer, I think the biggest part was convincing Grealish to stay. And after they did that, they got Martinez from Arsenal, who's just been amazing in the back.
Yeah, true.
I don't know why Arsenal got rid of him, honestly. I think that was one of the worst.
You're talking about the
decisions.
keeper, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they have Bernd Leno, so, I mean, he was a backup. Martinez was a backup for Arsenal.
But he was starting like half of last season.
Because Leno was hurt, yeah.
Yeah. He's keeping clean sheets after clean sheets for them.
True. Yeah.
But they also got
for Villa.
They got Matty Cash from Nottingham Forest.
That was big.
They kind of rated championship, honestly. But he's been great for them. They got Ollie Watkins up front from Brentford, who's also been having a great season. They got Ross Barkley on loan from Chelsea, and then they got Bertrand Traore from Lyon.
Yeah.
So, those were all deals for around $20 million.
Yeah, I think Traore was kind of out of nowhere to me. Like he had like a lot of promise. I remember 3 or 4 years ago he was like the next big thing kind of, and then he kind of dropped off a little bit. But yeah, they were able to find good players who kind of fit with them for cheap. I think now that you're kind of refreshing me on who they picked up, I think you're totally right that they did a great job in the offseason for sure.
I mean, all of those players are starters.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, now we find ourselves in January, and I don't think they're going to pick anyone up, are they?
They actually just got a deal done. Way. I didn't pay attention. They got someone from Marseille in France. I'm not sure what position he is. It was I think it was a $17 million euro deal. But yeah, they're just an exciting team, and I think they're going to get the better of West Ham. But can we just take a moment to shout out how much we hate Peacock? God damn.
Fuck Peacock. I was watching, dude, I'm paying for that. I was watching today, and it wouldn't, the whole first half, it wouldn't go 5 seconds.
You're paying for Peacock?
I'm paying for Peacock. Yeah, dude, I'm paying for Peacock, bro, and I am devastated.
And it sucks. I'm watching on his account. You know it.
You know you're watching on my account. But you hit me up this morning. Did you reset the password? I'm like, the only reason I reset it was to see if you texted me and were using it. Did you know that?
Of course I was using it, bro.
No question.
Last weekend when you started texting about how you were watching,
you logged in. I bet you logged
in. Oh, he must be back on that Peacock. The cock,
dude,
baby.
It's like a drug. It's like a very because if I could if I could stream every game on Peacock, I think that'd be great. You know, if I could watch every single.
The problem is they're not going. They want to avoid outrage, so they're doing like half and half kind of deal. So then anyone who actually gets Peacock is like, what the hell? I'm only getting half the games anyways. Right. And then the people who like don't have Peacock are like, I'm only getting half the games. What the hell?
Yeah, dude. I in a streaming world, right? I would love to just be able to stream every game. You know? Why can't I do that? Because I'll pay for Peacock if I get to stream every single game.
Fuck Peacock.
Dude, even if it wasn't on demand,
I will watch off your Peacock.
It'll stay. Actually, it'll probably stay up for the next few weeks because we need it for this channel. You know that, right? We need it.
We're gonna write it off as a business expense. That's the whole reason we made this
Let's
channel.
go, baby, dude.
We're soccer content into media for the sole purpose of writing off Peacock as a business expense.
Stonks. Bro, that's called being smart, right? You know what I'm saying? I got ESPN Plus, I got Peacock, I got
That's big brain.
CBS for the Champions League, bro.
Oh,
Write that
CS
shit off.
CBS All Access. Let's
All
go.
access, baby.
I've been through 5 free trials of Peacock already.
I've gone through a couple. I think I've gone through 2. But yeah, I mean, it sucked today. I couldn't even really watch the Spurs game, and I was paying for it. So that sucks. But what I will say is they did have not a bad. They had a pretty good little halftime show. Were you able to watch that in between the first and second half of the Spurs game? Did you see that?
No, I didn't. I'm pretty sure it's just the same. Isn't it Rebecca Lowe? It's just the same as NBC.
No, but it's on Peacock, so it's much better.
Oh.
No, it's exactly the same. But but they did cover some transfer news, which I think we do want to get to very briefly. But Liverpool, we talked about their injury struggles. They're looking at picking up Ben Davies, and not Ben Davies from Spurs
for a whopping fee of €3 million.
Was it €3 million? Yeah, from Preston North End. So I'm not from England. So maybe some of you English people could help me, but I've never heard of. I don't even know what that is. Is that a place? Is that a team? Is that a suburb?
Clearly, we've done a lot of research for this podcast.
So, yeah, Preston North End. It's somewhere on the north end of Preston, I'm assuming, or maybe it's somewhere.
Just don't even speculate because we have no idea where it is.
But I mean, I can deduce that it's maybe Preston is a person. I don't know. But they're looking to pick him up.
Preston's North End. It's his face.
So they're picking up Ben Davies from Preston North End, or they're thinking about it. Apparently, he has a medical tomorrow.
He's a 26-year-old. Fee of $3 million. It doesn't exactly inspire confidence.
I think, yeah, I mean, that's pretty tough. If that's who you're looking to shore up your defense, Liverpool are still going to get it done, but they're looking to pick him up. Apparently.
Yeah, I think the transfer news has been very quiet in January. Obviously, we kind of knew that because the fans aren't in the stadiums. Clubs don't have a lot of money to be buying new players, especially for January. I mean, January is historically much quieter. It's mid-season. But just not a whole lot going on. Bennett, do you want to quickly run through what has been going on?
Well, yes, and one thing that I think you are interested in is Dele Alli. Sounds like he's heading to PSG.
Yeah. Well, we're not sure.
We're not sure.
I think that what has been said is that the deal is basically agreed upon between Mourinho, Dele, Poch, PSG. The only thing is Daniel Levy, the main man at Tottenham, the budget keeper. He is brutal, but he gets things done, and he has said that it's basically waiting on his approval, and he will not let Dele go unless we bring in a replacement. And I do not think we are going to bring in a replacement. So I think, I mean, if he's going to go, it's got to be tonight, right? So we'll see.
Yeah, it'd have to be in the next 14 hours. I think it's so.
Daniel Levy does like his last-minute deals, though, so I'm not ruling it out. But by the time this episode comes out, Dele will be staying or he will be gone.
Yeah, so I would, if I was to guess, I would probably, given that, I'd probably say he might just stay, and we might see him move in the summer. But he's kind of fallen off, so we'll keep, next week we'll come back to that. We'll have a definitive answer next week. David Alaba to Real Madrid. According to Fabrizio Romano, that is confirmed, but we don't know. That might, I don't think either of the clubs have confirmed that. Odegaard is supposedly heading to Arsenal, which is a great pickup for Arsenal. He was one of the best playmakers in La Liga last season.
That is what Arsenal does. They take great players from La Liga and just
destroy them,
destroy their careers.
Yeah, Ceballos,
Partey. How's his season been?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, so tough. Hate to see that. But I think it is a good move for Arsenal. I'm not sure if it's a good move for Odegaard. And then finally, we talked about Man City earlier. We talked about their depth at center back, and it looks like Eric Garcia might be heading to Barcelona, which I think is a good deal for City. but maybe not for him. Is he going to get playing time at Barca?
Yeah, I don't know what to think about that. From what I've seen him play at City a few times. He looks decent. He looks really good. He's Spanish, so he's probably moving closer to home.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm always skeptical these days of anyone going to Barcelona just because,
that good players go there to die. Washed up players go there to sit on the bench. I mean, it's so, you never know, right? I mean, I guess PK's getting old, but they have so much depth. Barca have so much depth there. They have Longley, they have Umtiti, they have PK, they have, who am I missing? There's more. I know there's more.
I don't even know, but
I don't know.
One interesting thing I'd like to bring up is Suarez. Man, they let him go, and he's the leading scorer in La Liga right now.
Suarez is the man, dude.
Yeah,
he's old, but
wow.
It's weird because when he left, I thought Barca were doing kind of like just exodus where they just expel. Like I thought PK was gonna leave. I thought maybe.
Well, he offered to.
I know. I remember when they lost to who did they lose to? They got obliterated. Was it Liverpool?
I don't remember.
They went out early in the They went out early in the Champions League. I forget. This is really embarrassing. I forget who they lost to. But they got. Oh, it was Bayern. They got embarrassed by Bayern.
Yeah.
They lost like 7-1 or 6-1.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm out of here, whatever. If you want me to be. And they didn't get rid of him. And they got rid of Suarez. So I'm like, he's and then they of course Griezmann's been just pretty bad.
He's been playing okay recently. He has some goals. He's been racking up some goals and assists.
But what they paid for him, I don't think you could justify that.
But some other interesting transfer news. It looks like DeAndre Yedlin is making a move to Turkey's Galatasaray. Is that how you pronounce it?
Galatasaray, I think it is.
Galatasaray.
I mean, you might have to ask
like
someone who actually can pronounce it correctly. But
yeah. And Ozil.
Fenerbahce or whatever, right? Isn't that where he went?
Yeah. From Arsenal. So he's gone. Kind of a disappointing end to his Arsenal career. After they
disappointing.
He was like sitting out, and then he got back in, and they re-signed him in 2018, and then he just went right back to sitting out again.
Dude, that sad picture of him with the umbrella sitting on the bench with no one near him, bro. Oh my goodness, yeah. I feel bad for him. Yedlin, he's an American, so I care, but he doesn't. I think he said multiple times that he doesn't want to play for us. He doesn't want to play for the U.S.
I don't know why. Does he have dual citizenship? Is he trying to play somewhere else?
From what I understand, it's kind of a Black Lives Matter. He doesn't want to represent a country that he feels doesn't respect him. That's like I think that's kind of how he put it. So okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
I'd love to.
That's unfortunate to hear, honestly, from a culture perspective.
Right.
Especially if he's talking about the men's national team culture as a whole, or
no,
he's
just
talking
not
about the U.S.
I think he's been pretty vocal that he's happy with the team, but I think he just doesn't feel comfortable representing the U.S. Which, it's unfortunate, and we'd love to have him, but I totally understand if that's that's his choice. I mean, we do have a lot of depth at right back now that we have Dest, and then Cannon can play over there, and we'll get to a couple other guys when we talk about the January camp roster. But
get into the
let's get into it. Let's get into it. So they did. This is kind of a weird. I'm not super familiar with this, but there's 12 players that they put on the January camp roster as senior players, and then there's just a whole ton of U23s.
There's
I think
there
were
slew of U23s.
Like 25 of them, maybe. I don't even know. But I think the real question, Sam, is: are any of these players actually going to be an impact in World Cup qualifiers later this year, and then the World Cup in 2022? What are you thinking? Out of the senior players, I'm thinking maybe we'd see Leggett, and we could see Aaron Long.
Yeah, even Walker Zimmerman. I think he's been playing really well. MLS Defender of the Year, I think, last year. Mm-hmm. So he's been doing well, and Jordan Morris, obviously, I think we're going to see him.
Right. That's another thing. Yeah, that's another transfer, another move.
Josie, I don't know.
Say that again? Josie,
I don't know if he's going to I think he's going to make the roster. I'm not sure if he's going to play. And Paul Arriola, I don't know. All of these players are players I'm I mean, they've done a decent job of like carrying the torch between generations, but I'm just not excited about any of them really, except maybe Jordan Morris.
That's a great way for me to put it too. So when I look at the full roster, you got Sean Johnson and Matt Turner at keeper.
Shojo, shout out Sean Johnson, Chicago
and he actually
Fire,
left with a knee injury.
2010-2016 legend. Shout out
Did you hear
Shojo.
that he left camp with a knee injury?
It's sad.
So I don't think either of them. I'm not going to put either of them in the conversation for World Cup qualifiers. And then defenders, Tristan Blackman, Aaron Long, Walker Zimmerman. We said Long and Zimmerman could make it. Kellen Acosta, Christian Roldan. I don't want to see either of them.
I just feel like any midfielder, like all of our good midfielders are playing in Europe now.
Right.
Like, and that's just how it is.
Especially if we get Yunus Musa or, if we end up picking up a couple other dual nationals. But yeah, Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie are 100%, barring career-ending injuries, going to be our two main midfielders.
And then Gio Reyna and Pulisic. Like, there you go. We're set.
Pulisic will probably play as a cam, I'm assuming. I don't think they're going to put him out on the wing because he's just too good, right, to be kind of wasted out on the wing.
I feel like he will be out on the wing with Weston McKennie as the cam.
No, you think so?
You don't think?
Maybe Gio Reyna. Gio Reyna could play cam. I think Weston McKennie's going to be...
he's going to be on the wing too. Gio Reyna, Pulisic on the wings.
No way Weston McKennie's playing a cam. That's just my... Huh?
Why not?
Because that's not... He's a ball-winning box-to-box midfielder. He's not
What strikers do we even have? Like, Jordan Morris but he's not even really... Like, I guess he is, but he's kind of like a winger-striker hybrid. Do we have any true strikers besides like Altidore?
It's going to have to be, Josh Sargent, Tim Weah. It could even be Matthew Hoppe. Or Hoppy. I think it's Hoppy. But I think it's going to have to just be a young dude.
He's a midfielder, isn't he?
Is he?
I think he's a midfielder.
I don't know. He's played at striker for 3 games for Schalke. So, dude, we're struggling. You're right, though. We don't have a lot of options. So, and even in this roster, yeah, you're right. Jordan Morris, Josie Altidore, probably going to make the roster.
Speaking of Jordan Morris move, should we talk about that? He recently moved to Swansea City. He got his debut. He played like 7 minutes. Tidy up time, honestly. I'm not sold on the move, honestly. Dude. I don't think he really fits into... Like, they don't need him.
Also, it's like a weird, like... It's a loan. And it's a weird, like... Is he going to get a lot of playing time?
That's what I'm saying. Their two forwards are like... They play a 3-4-1-2, right?
Okay.
And their two strikers, Jamal Lowe and Andre Ayew, Andre Ayew's brother of
Jordan Ayew
on Crystal Palace, but their two strikers are their best players. Jamal Lowe has 9 goals, Andre Ayew has 8 goals, 2 assists. Like, they're second in the championship. Like, they're doing well. They're having a good season, and a big reason for that is their 2 strikers. So I don't see Jordan Morris fitting the cam role. And I don't see him fitting in the kind of aggressive fullback, wingback role either. And I don't see him replacing either of the 2 forwards. So I'm just not sure like what that move's about, honestly.
So the only thing I can think is that this is, hey, it's MLS offseason. He's not going to be doing much in the United States. Let's just send him over and see if he can get, kind of ingrained in that culture and maybe
because he's gonna miss like the first 3 months. Like, I think he's looking to be permanent. He's gonna miss the first 3 months of the MLS. But then again, we know Seattle usually doesn't win a lot of games in the first 3 months. They like to kind of wait till July and then just stop losing for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Well, so hey, I don't know. We're just gonna have to see, I guess. I mean, I think it makes sense that he comes on for 7 minutes in his debut and doesn't like start right away.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So yeah, going back to that, I mean, I really only see I don't see any really exciting names. You put it really well, like in that January camp roster. Who's really exciting? No one. And then if we go to the U23s, I mean, there's a lot of names. I follow the U.S. men's national team very closely, and there's a lot of names I've never heard of. And I'm sure there's a lot of names you've never heard of.
I like it. I think that he's given the opportunity. he's checking out the talent pool.
Yeah,
Can't
so
be mad at.
yeah, go ahead.
He's given them all times with they're like playing with. I'm pretty sure they like brought the veterans to camp just to like, you know, kind of play with the younger guys and show them like, you know, what this is going to be like. So I think it's really good to just give a variety of people a taste. I think it's great for the MLS. They have players from most of the MLS teams, but also at the same time, it's like none of our U23 stars are actually there because they're all in Europe playing.
Yeah. And almost all of our stars are U23. That's the funny thing. Hey there, you made it through the video. Congratulations. Or maybe you just fell asleep. Either way, if you're still there, subscribe and like this video. We'll be dropping videos every week, so stay tuned.